Hi there everyone, Tiny One Badger here fixing her hair because I was just wearing this and, fursuits, hair, it's awful. Well, today we're not going to be talking about head construction like everyone wants me to do. We're going to be talking about eyeball construction because I noticed after making this angel dragon that her eyes don't quite have a big enough pupil for her character. But this would actually be a pretty good eyeball size for pretty much any other type of fursuit. So I'm going to be literally making the exact same type of eye but with a bigger pupil. So I'm just going to be recording the whole process and it'll be awesome and I'll be talking through it in my usual tutorialness. So I hope you guys like it! Right now the two biggest makers of angel dragons are Eno89777 and Phoenix Wolf. Phoenix Wolf creating the original telephone, which was Eno's idea, and Eno creating all of the other fan-made angel dragons. And how their eyes usually work is it's a very light pupil and a dark sclera. There are a lot of angel dragons that don't quite fit that mold, such as Alabaster and Tumbleweed, and Tachyon even has a design inside of his eyes. But Cherry Blossom has very stereotypical angel dragon eyes, and that's what I'll be making in this tutorial. This is what the finished product is going to look like. They're going to be follow effect angel dragon eyes. The eye we are making consists of a few different layers. You've got your foamy layer on the bottom, your paper layer on top, you got this little eyeball part, which is made out of an Ada cloth, and you have this felt that is wrapped all the way around it and glued down from this side. The stuffy stuff you're going to need for this tutorial thingy is some thick artist paper. This is about twice as thick as poster board, and I got it at Hobby Lobby. Some foamies. I think this is, I'm not sure, maybe 3mm. It's about the thickest one they sell at Hobby Lobby. Some vinyl Ada cloth. You can also use the fabric kind. I just like this because it's fairly opaque and easy to see through. Some felt in the color that you want this part of the eye to be. Make sure that these are similar colors. So, this is what I'm using. A hot glue gun, because hot glue guns are amazing! And paints in all of the colors that you're generally going to be needing. I've got white and red to create pink, and I've got brown because her eyes are brown. I knew I forgot something, and scissors. Yeah, you're gonna need to cut this stuff out with something. Oh, and an X-Acto knife would probably help out too. So yeah, things to cut stuff with. Anything I inevitably forgot will be in the description. Well, I just found out that I voided the entire house of copy paper, so we're gonna be using this really pretty purple stuff to get our pattern. I have really awesome news! I finally got 2 pair of scissors, so I can use this one on paper and this one on fabric, and I won't be ruining them anywhere near as much. So, to start with the shape of the eyes, you're going to take the fursuit head in question and look at it. Now, with that out of the way, I noticed that the eyes are just generally this kind of shape. So I'm going to cut this out. And I'm going to take my fursuit head and I'm going to place the pattern inside of the eye and cut it until it fits inside. And then you've got a perfect pattern for the eye. Okay, I've got it all trimmed up and it's about the size that I want it to be. Now we're going to decide the size of the pupil. So, find a bunch of round things and place them down and sort of see which one matches the pupil size you want. And once you've found the perfect thingamajig, this looks pretty good. Perfect. You're going to take a pencil, trace around it, kind of do it a couple times, and then you're going to just sort of round it off and do that. And now we've got a perfect little pattern. So I'm going to outline my little circle in a slightly darker color. And once you've got your circle lined, you're going to cut into it like that. And just cut the entire circle out. Make sure to leave the circle in one piece though. And make sure you don't cut too much of the pattern because you're going to need that. And this is not going to be the definite pupil placement right now. So you've got this piece, and you get your circle piece. Now that we have our basic pupil shape, you're going to want to take this little eye part and find a marker somewhere on the side you're not going to be using. You're just going to trace around it. And now you've got a pattern. If you want to leave them white, you can just cut them out as it is, but if you want to make them a different color, then you're going to have to paint them. Ta-da! It's a painting palette! So I don't think I really need to tell you guys how to make pink, but whatever color you're going to be using, and just paint up your eyes. Do it right on top of your desk so that the paint falls through the little holes and gets on important stuff. Make sure you don't have a piece of paper laid down. And you're going to notice that these holes are going to start closing up. Now you can finish that now by just blowing into the holes and getting the paint out of them, or you can wait and have to shove a needle through them. Paint is legitimately the reason I can't have nice things. So while the eyes are drying, I'm going to be cutting out the bases. So, on your foamies, you're going to be tracing out your base. Now, it really does not matter how dirty these get because you're not going to be seeing these in the final product. These just add a little bit more support to them. And we're also going to be tracing out the eyes on this big paper thing. Now, make sure you are using the ugly side when you draw on it. It's going to be painted over, but this stuff shows markings really badly. And once again, if you think this is your final pupil placement, you're just gonna draw on your pupil. Now I like to do it with the base because I feel like it makes them more even in the end, because eyes are sort of the pinnacle of the fursuit. Now that you've got both of your patterns drawn out, you're just going to cut around them. But you also want to flip it over occasionally and make sure that you're not marring this side with your scissors. Put the bases together like this and cut around to make sure that they're both about the same size. You don't want them being too different. I think this part is the part that I really, really hate the most, because this is the part that you can't screw up or you're going to have to redo this. Now, before we start painting them, we are going to cut out this circular part. Now make sure that you are not hurting this side. And just try to make it as good of a circle as I can. I'm still going to go around with my X-Acto knife a bit, but that's what you're supposed to do. Put the bases together, make sure they're as even as possible, and just trace around this part so you know where to cut for the other. Now that you've got these decently rounded out, we can start on the foam ones as well. Now these don't need to be cut as cleanly, but you want to make sure you still kind of stick to the same circular pattern. And the reason that we didn't use scissors on those ones is because the blade tends to cut into the other side. So, like you see I'm doing on this foamy, just cut in a circle, you can see a lot of really awful blade marks, and you would not want that on your final product. We're going to start painting it. And this doesn't actually take paint the best, but that's actually pretty good for the effect that I'm going for, because my character is part tree. But I am just going to do 3 or 4 so I get a wood bark effect like I did on my last eye, because I thought that looked really good. You in the other eye, doing my painting song. Once you put on a couple layers, you're going to want to take your original paint and some gloss, or Mod Podge, and mix it in. At this point, you guys should probably be painting in a different direction than I am. Again, I'm going for a tree bark effect. If you are not going for a tree bark effect, which I assume is like all of you, then you should be painting in a diagonal direction or a vertical direction, or just different than the last strokes you did, so it sort of fades in and doesn't show the strokes as much. Making sure that one is turned this way and one is turned this way, you're going to take your painted bases and cut them out. And making sure that there will be no white showing through when you put this part on top. you can just glue this part down. And you can just flip it over, nip this part off. And if you don't want your vision to be impeded too much, you can just take a needle and poke through the parts of the mesh that inevitably kind of got painted over. That's gonna be your eye! You can just take this, kind of see where it's going, and put down your glue, making sure that you don't get any on the spot where the hole is. And now that it's glued down, your eye's starting to take shape, isn't it? So, you're going to want to cut out one long strip of foamy that fits all around your base, and I'd say make them 2 centimeters and a half thick, maybe a little bit skinnier than what I've got here. So, you're going to take your little belt and your long foam piece, and you're going to lay it down, kind of see where you want to put it, making sure that you get one side entirely, and making sure you get this nice clean edge. So, I like to lay down the foamy first, because the foamy is the thing getting glued. And now you have this nice edge. And now that we've got our bases entirely glued down, and we've got the shape of the eye going, we're going to take the eye and glue it down so the pretty edge is out. And I like to use the corner right here. If you can imagine this, you're just going to sort of dab down the glue and sort of roll it around. So you dab a little glue onto the base and roll it on. Just to make sure it holds. And you just want to make sure there aren't any gaps where air gets through, or where light gets through. And we're going to fix the corner, and once it's all glued on. Now that the base is pretty much glued all around, you're going to want to see where this seam meets, and press a little bit hot glue into that little open area right there. But they both have the same very decent vision. So, just try to see if you can see that. And that's sort of what your vision's gonna be like. Okay, looks like both of our eyes are done. And I'll hold them next to each other. Let's pop them in my angel dragon and see what happens. Now that the eyes are done, you can see how they look inside of the mask. They make the muzzle look a lot smaller and give it a generally more cute appearance. If I can figure it out, I'll give you a side-by-side comparison of when it had the smaller pupils, and you can tell the difference between the two heads. And I'll just give you an all-around view. I'm very happy with how these eyes turned out, and I think they definitely work for my character more. Another thing you need to kind of avoid is the first time I installed these eyes into the head, the first time I put them in, I even filmed everything with the eyes in wrong. I accidentally put them in this way, so they were kind of upside down, and it didn't look quite right because I had made this side a lot flatter. So be aware of which eye goes into which lens. You can mark them on the back if you want before you start to glue them in, so you don't accidentally glue them in the wrong way. Have fun making your fursuit eyes, guys. As usual, if you use any of my tutorials, if you use this eye, if you use my ear tutorials, I would love to see the finished product. I love seeing anything that people do with my tutorials. Send me a message on Fur Affinity, just put it in a comment on the YouTube. Just tell me what you think about this tutorial, if you used it, if you think it's bad. I love hearing feedback from all of you guys. Have an awesome day. Bye! Okay. Remember to unplug your hot glue gun, too. Bye.